What's going on, guys? Welcome to my 100 subscriber special. Yes, first of all, I want to thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. I mean, really cool. It's a milestone, 100 subscribers. I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing, of course, but just for watching, liking, commenting, whatever you do on the channel. I really appreciate it. It just means so much to me. I started this channel towards the end of 2017, and I've just had a lot of fun with this channel so far, doing mainly Doctor Who content, especially recently, just pretty much all Doctor Who content. I will branch out eventually a little bit, but this channel will always stay Doctor Who focused. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for that. So I thought I'd do a bit of a special video where I talk about what got me into Doctor Who in the first place. Because Doctor Who is the main, and at the moment really the only thing I do on the channel, I thought it would be an interesting video to do, talk to you guys about how I got into Doctor Who, why, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to get started with that today. I don't know how long this video is going to go for, but let's get into it. Alright, so first of all, a little bit about me. I was born on the 27th of June 1999, so I was born in the wilderness years, as we call them. Basically, no Doctor Who on at the time. The movie had come out, 3 years earlier, so I even missed out on that. So I had to wait another 6 years until Doctor Who actually, came back again in 2005. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether I was introduced to Doctor Who with Rose, the first episode of Series 1, or whether I did watch a couple of classic stories before that, because I have memories of watching classic stories. Basically, I think the main person that got me into Doctor Who was my uncle. My uncle was and still is a massive Doctor Who fan. At the time, he had every single classic DVD that you could buy. He was so mad on it, mainly Classic Who, but I mean, he loved it all the way up until, I don't think he was a big fan of the Matt Smith stuff, which at the time I wasn't. Now that I've watched it over again, I actually do quite like that. I mean, I still don't think it's as good as the RTD era, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant stuff, but, he, like me, loved the first, 4 or 5 years of Doctor Who coming back, and then thought it went down a little bit. He didn't really seem to like the Peter Capaldi stuff very much. I actually don't think he even watched all of Series 10. He just found everything a bit too complicated and a bit silly, which I can understand totally, and I do agree in some ways. And then he did actually watch Series 11, which from what I heard, I actually think he quite liked. There was a couple of episodes, like myself, that he didn't really enjoy. But I think he actually quite enjoyed Series 11 on the whole, which is interesting because I didn't mind it, but definitely not one of my favourite series. I think, from what I've heard, he puts it ahead of pretty much everything of Peter Capaldi's at least. So that's an interesting thing to think about there. But yeah, my uncle was definitely the one that got me into Doctor Who in the first place. But whether it was from the classic series, showing me his classic DVDs, some of his favourite stories from his favourite Doctors, or whether it was just him, like, oh, this show's coming back that I loved as a kid, start watching it, and then after that I started watching the classics. I'm not 100% sure, so I can't actually say whether I started with the classics or with the new series, but we're just going to kind of talk about them both and where I started with them. So we might as well start with the new series, because I think that is the more likely option, that's where I got into Doctor Who. So I started watching Doctor Who from day one with the new series. I watched Rose when it was live broadcast on BBC One or whatever it was. And yeah, I don't really remember, I'm going to be honest. I mean, let's be honest, I was I can't 100% remember when Series 1 was broadcast, but I would have been at a max 6 at the time, maybe 5. So I don't really remember anything of a lot of Series 1, actually. Don't really remember much of Series 1 being broadcast. The first real memory I have of watching, in my memory of watching a Doctor Who episode live as it came out, the first one I can think of is Tooth and Claw from Series 2. I remember that one especially because I remember being absolutely terrified. Now, I was, 6, maybe 7 at the time, and there was just something about the werewolf that really creeped me out. I remember, because I used to live in England. I live in Australia now, but I used to live in England. I was born there, and we lived in a 2-story house. Most English houses are 2-story. And, we'd have the living room downstairs, and then the toilet, the bathroom, and the bedrooms and all that would be upstairs. And I remember once we just finished watching Tooth and Claw, and it was dark, because it gets dark at that time of year quite early. And I remember I went upstairs, and it was just completely pitch black upstairs, and I don't know, I was terrified that there was going to be a werewolf in the bathroom, which is a bit funny. But I was terrified of that werewolf. That's the earliest memory I can really think of that I can remember of watching Doctor Who live as it came out. Tooth and Claw, that's the one. So yeah, apart from that though, I mean, I started watching, well, I watched all the way from beginning of Series 1 all the way up until, I think, the end of Series 5. I'm not 100% sure. Series 5 is a bit blurry for me. I definitely watched all of the Ross T. Davis era as it was broadcast, definitely. But when it starts getting into Matt Smith stuff and Stephen Moffat's era, it gets a bit fuzzy for me, because I definitely started watching Series 5 live, but I think I was so distraught over the 10th Doctor leaving, because he was my favourite Doctor, and he still is my favourite Doctor. I was so distraught about him leaving. He was the one that really got me into Doctor Who, you know, he was my Doctor and still is. And I didn't really like Matt Smith when he first came on. Now, in subsequent viewing, and now getting older and kind of understanding what the whole show's about and the regeneration and stuff, I do quite like Matt Smith. I think he puts a different twist on the role. I think at the time my problem was I only really knew 2 Doctors very well, 9 and 10, and a new actor coming in and not being that great after having the 10th Doctor for so long, being really different and weird, I just didn't really like it at the time, and that put me off. So yeah, I don't think I did watch the whole of Series 5 actually. I think I got about halfway through and then I kind of thought, I don't really feel like this is my thing anymore, and I stopped watching. And from what I remember, now, once again, I'm not 100% sure with this, but from what I remember, I actually stopped watching Doctor Who all the way up until, I think, Day of the Doctor in 2013. So I had a long break. I probably had like almost a 3-year break from Doctor Who. I watched Day of the Doctor, then I watched Time of the Doctor, and then I started getting back into it with Series 8, watched Series 8, 9, 10, and 11 all on live broadcast. So, you know, from that point on, I was back into it. So sadly, I, for some reason, just didn't really get with Matt Smith at the start. But then, you know, I did subsequently, after watching Day and Time of the Doctor, I went back, bought Series 5, 6, and 7, watched them, and, you know, appreciate them a lot more now. But yeah, that's kind of the only break I've had from Doctor Who. Apart from that, I've watched them live every time. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It really is. I think just because David Tennant was the first Doctor that I really got to know. I mean, Christopher Eccleston, it was sad when he went, but we only got to know him for 1 series. Whereas David Tennant, we got to know him for 3 and a bit more series. And it was just so heartbreaking to see him go as well. So, you know, I went through a lot with that Doctor as well, because, you know, I went from moving from England to Australia while he was the Doctor. Went through a whole lot of stuff, and yeah, it was, you know, bought all the merch, I bought calendars, figures, you know, the series on DVD, all these sort of things. So yeah, it was a difficult thing for me, but I eventually got through it, and now I'm the Doctor Who fan that I am today. So as for the classic series, like I said, I did watch some classic stories when I was younger. I don't know if it was before Rose or after Rose. I think it was probably after, but I'm not 100% sure. There are a few that I don't exactly remember which ones I watched. There are a few, though, that I do definitely have memories of. So, I mean, let's do them in chronological order. First of all, Spared from Space. Definitely remember watching that one with my uncle. What else we got from the 3rd Doctor? I think there was maybe the 3 Doctors. Not 100% sure, but maybe. The Green Death is the main one. I have vivid memories of watching The Green Death. It's probably the one that I have the most memories of, actually, watching with my uncle. And I love that story today. It's such a fabulous story. For the 4th Doctor, maybe Genesis of the Daleks. I can't really remember if I did watch that with him or not. The main one from him, though, has got to be probably Pyramids of Mars. Definitely remember watching that one. Also, The Robots of Death, I remember watching with him as well. The 5 Doctors, I'm fairly sure I watched with my uncle. If not, I watched it pretty early on with the DVDs, because I got, and I still have, the original 5 Doctors special edition DVD, or anniversary edition, I think it is. And that's really it. That's really all. Yeah, didn't watch a whole lot of classic Who, at least from what I can remember. But I mean, you know, subsequently now, really just this past year, I've gone back and got a hell of a lot more into Classic Who. I mean, it's the main thing on this channel now, reviewing the classic episodes. So I've really got into it recently, but there was a long time where I just wasn't really that bothered about it. I used to get the DVD files, the Doctor Who DVD files. It was the way that I got series 1 to 4 and the specials on DVD, and I also, after series 4, they didn't have anything else to release for the new series, so they started releasing classic stories, and I did get quite a lot of classic stories actually, and that's where most of my more recent classic viewing came from. I did then subsequently cancel my DVD files, because at the time I didn't really want the classic stories. I wasn't that bothered about them, and then to be honest, I'm glad I did cancel them, because much better to have the proper releases of the classics and also have the full box set versions of the new series. It just looks so much nicer on the shelf, just goes together much better, special features and stuff as well. So yeah, that is my, I was going to say quick Doctor Who kind of history, how I got into Doctor Who, but yeah, not really quick. We've been going for like 11 minutes now, but yeah, I want to know, how did you guys get into Doctor Who? Were you inspired by, inspired, I don't know if that's the right word. Were you kind of shown the way, I suppose, by a relative, by a friend? Did you just think one day, oh, this is an interesting show, let's give it a watch? Did you start watching from the classic series? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Once again, thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. It means so much to me. I can't believe it. It's just so awesome. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.